Picture this. I'm standing in my parents' Houston doorway, clutching a homemade apple pie, its warm pecan aroma mixing with the scent of Christmas pine. I'm dressed in green, heart full of hope that this Texas holiday might mend years of family scars. Then my brother Nathan's voice cuts through, sharp as a December chill. "Why would we waste a seat on you?" His smirk burns deeper than the rejection. This isn't just a holiday dinner gone wrong. It's the moment I realized my family's love was a lie, and I'd have to fight for my own worth. I'm Abigail, 34, from Austin, Texas, and this is my story of revenge. Not with anger, but with truth. Growing up in Houston, I was the middle child, invisible between Nathan, the golden boy, and Hannah, the cherished baby. My parents, Richard and Susan, built a world where I didn't fit. Nathan didn't just overshadow me. He sabotaged me. At 7, he destroyed my art project, blaming me while our parents helped him win the fair. In high school, he spread lies that cost me my prom date. Even my career as a senior architect, featured in Texas Architect, was dismissed at family dinners while Nathan's deals were praised. The deepest cut. My grandmother Margaret's silver locket, promised to me, stolen by my cousin Rebecca after Nathan lied about my wishes. I found Margaret's journal in our attic, her words confirming the betrayal. For Abigail, my dreamer. That Christmas 2024, I walked into my parents' home with gifts and a pie, hoping to be seen. Instead, I found no seat at their table, literally. Told to eat in my car, I faced the truth. My family chose Nathan's lies over me. But I had a plan. Under Nathan's plate, I left evidence of his manipulation. Texts, emails, a recording, proof he'd built his throne on my pain. This isn't just about exposing him. It's about reclaiming my place, not at their table, but at one I'd build myself. If you've ever stood in a room full of family yet felt utterly alone, this story is for you. Maybe you've been pushed aside, your voice drowned out by someone else's ego. I know that pain, and I'm here to tell you, you're not invisible. Stick with me to hear how I turned betrayal into strength, exposing my brother's lies and walking away from a toxic table. If this resonates, hit that like button. It tells YouTube to share this story with others who need it. Subscribe to join our community of Texans and beyond. Healing from family wounds. Drop your story in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away to protect your peace? What boundaries did you set? I read every comment, and your words could inspire someone else. Share this video with a friend who's felt excluded. It might give them the courage to choose themselves. Let's build a table where everyone's voice matters, right here in the comments. Stay tuned for the moment I left Nathan speechless and found my own freedom. I was 7 years old, sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor in our Houston home, surrounded by scraps of paper and glue, building a diorama of our neighborhood for the school fair. Every tiny house, every paper tree, was a piece of my heart, carefully crafted to show my parents, Richard and Susan, that I could shine too. I was the middle child, wedged between Nathan, the golden boy, 3 years older, and Hannah, the cherished baby, 3 years younger. In our family, love was a hierarchy, and I was always at the bottom, invisible. Nathan was the star, charismatic, confident, the son my parents pinned their dreams on. Hannah was the darling, her every giggle a treasure. Me. I was the quiet one, the one they forgot to pick up from ballet practice because Nathan had a baseball game. I'd wait alone in the Texas dusk, the humid air heavy, wondering what I'd done wrong. That diorama was my chance to be seen. I stayed up late, perfecting every detail, imagining my parents' proud smiles. The night before the fair, I went to bed dreaming of their praise. But when I woke up, my project was gone, torn to pieces, scattered across my floor like confetti. I screamed, tears streaming, as my parents rushed in. Nathan was already there, shaking his head, his voice smooth as honey. Abigail got mad because her project wasn't good enough, he said. I tried to help, but she pushed me away. It was a lie, but his eyes held that smirk I'd come to know, a smirk that said he'd won before I even spoke. I choked out the truth, my voice trembling, but my parents' faces hardened. They believed him. That night, while I cried myself to sleep, My father helped Nathan build a new project in the garage, using tools and materials I wasn't allowed to touch. The next day, Nathan stood on the school stage, accepting first place for a diorama my father mostly made. While I stood empty-handed in the crowd, my heart as broken as my project. That was the first time I understood. In our family, Nathan's word was truth, and mine was just noise. It wasn't a one-time thing. At 9, I saved my allowance to buy a kite for the Houston Kite Festival, painting it with bright Texas bluebonnets. Nathan took it to show his friends, and it came back snapped in half. He told Mom I'd flown it into a tree. She sighed. "Abigail, you need to be more careful." At 10, I won a spelling bee, clutching my tiny trophy, only for Nathan to tell our parents I'd practiced with stolen answer sheets. They grounded me for a week, and Nathan got ice cream for being honest. Each lie built a wall between me and my family, and I learned early that fighting it was pointless. But I kept trying, hoping one day they'd see me. That hope was my anchor, even as Nathan's shadow grew larger. His smirk a constant reminder that I was fighting a losing battle in a game he'd rigged from the start. High school should have been my escape, a chance to carve out a space where I wasn't just Nathan's sister or Hannah's shadow. At Lamar High in Houston, I threw myself into my studies, dreaming of becoming an architect, designing buildings that could stand as tall as my ambitions. I made honor roll in 9th grade, my name printed in the school paper. I rushed home, clutching the clipping, thinking maybe this time my parents would celebrate me. But Nathan was waiting. "Abigail's been cheating on her tests," he told them, his voice dripping with fake concern. "I heard her bragging about it at school." Another lie, but my parents didn't question it. Mom folded the clipping and said, "We'll talk about this later, Abigail." There was no later. My achievement was buried under Nathan's accusations, and I spent the evening in my room, staring at the ceiling, wondering why my truth was never enough. By 16, I'd learned to keep my dreams small, hidden, to avoid giving Nathan ammunition. But he found ways to strike anyway. I'd had a crush on a boy named Caleb for years, a quiet kid who liked my sketches. When he asked me to prom, my heart soared. I felt seen for the first time. I spent weeks planning, saving for a dress, imagining a night where I wasn't invisible. 3 days before prom, Caleb cancelled. Nathan had cornered him at school, saying I'd been talking about another boy, that I wasn't worth his time. I confronted Nathan, my voice shaking with rage, but he just laughed. "You're too sensitive, Abigail," he said, that smirk flashing. I didn't go to prom. Instead, I sat on our porch, the Texas heat clinging to my skin, staring at the dress I'd never wear. That summer, at a family barbecue in Galveston, Nathan took it further. Surrounded by cousins grilling burgers by the Gulf, he mocked my architecture dreams. "Abigail thinks she'll build skyscrapers," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Cute, but she's not cut out for it." My parents chuckled, and I felt my future shrink under the weight of their dismissal. The salty Gulf air stung my eyes as I walked away, swallowing tears. Nathan wasn't just stealing moments. He was stealing my place in the world, and my family was letting him. Every lie, every jab, was a brick in the wall he built to keep me small, and I was starting to believe I deserved it. College at UT Austin was supposed to be my fresh start, a chance to build a life beyond Nathan's shadow. I threw myself into architecture, sketching designs that blended Texas's wide-open spaces with sustainable beauty. But holidays dragged me back to Houston, back to the same toxic table. My first serious boyfriend, Daniel, came home with me one Christmas. I was nervous but hopeful, thinking maybe my family would see me through his eyes. Nathan saw his chance. Over dinner, he spun stories, half true, half invented, about my childhood clumsiness, my temper, my failures. By dessert, Daniel was quiet, his hand no longer on mine. A week later, he broke up with me, saying he couldn't handle my baggage. Nathan's smirk as I left that night told me he'd won again. After graduation, I landed a job at a top Austin firm, becoming the youngest senior architect in its history. My sustainable designs were featured in Texas Architect, a moment I thought would finally make my family proud. But at Thanksgiving, as I tried to share my success, Nathan interrupted with news of his new hill country vacation home. My parents leaned in, eyes bright, while my magazine sat untouched on the table. At a family reunion at a Fredericksburg ranch, I brought my portfolio, hoping to show my designs. Nathan steered the conversation to his new condo in Dallas, and my parents followed his lead. I was invisible again, my voice drowned out by his. Each return to Houston felt like stepping into a trap, Nathan's lies tightening the noose. But I kept coming back, clinging to the hope that one day they'd see me, not the caricature Nathan painted, but the woman I was becoming. That hope kept me tethered to a family that didn't want me, setting the stage for a Christmas where I'd finally fight back, not with anger, but with the truth that would shatter Nathan's carefully built throne. In the chaos of my Houston childhood, my grandmother Margaret was my refuge, the one person who saw me when no one else did. Her small house in the Heights, with its creaky porch and pecan trees, was where I felt safe. She'd sit me on her lap, her silver locket glinting in the Texas sunlight, and tell stories of our Irish ancestors who carried that locket through the potato famine, a symbol of resilience passed down through generations. "This is for you, Abigail," she'd say, her voice warm like a summer breeze. "You're a dreamer just like them. This locket will remind you of your strength." I'd trace its delicate engravings, dreaming of the day it would be mine, a tangible piece of love in a family that offered me so little. When Margaret passed 5 years ago, I was 29, and the loss hit me like a Gulf Coast storm. I went to her bedroom the day after her funeral, my heart heavy, expecting to find the locket in her jewelry box as she'd promised. But it was gone. My stomach dropped, a hollow ache spreading. Later that day, I saw it around my cousin Rebecca's neck, catching the light as she laughed with my aunts. I confronted her, my voice shaking. "That's mine. Margaret promised it to me." Rebecca's eyes flickered with guilt, but she said, "She gave it to me privately, Abigail. You must be confused." I knew she was lying, but my family rallied around her. My mother, Susan, sighed. "You're just upset, Abigail. Don't make a scene." My father, Richard, added, "It's a hard time for us all. Let it go." I stood there, surrounded by my family, yet utterly alone, the locket's absence a wound only I felt. 4 years I'd swallowed their dismissals, but this was different. This was theft, not just of an heirloom, but of my place in Margaret's legacy. Months later, I found the truth in a dusty attic in our Houston home, where I was sorting through Margaret's things. Tucked in a box of old letters was her journal, its pages brittle but her handwriting clear. "The locket is for Abigail," she wrote, "to carry our family's strength into her future." My breath caught, tears blurring the ink. Nathan, my brother, had orchestrated the lie. He'd convinced Rebecca that I didn't want the locket, that I'd called it old junk. It was another of his calculated moves to erase me, to keep me invisible. I clutched that journal, the Texas heat pressing against the attic walls, and felt a fire ignite inside me. Nathan had stolen more than a locket. He'd stolen my truth, and I was starting to see the shape of his throne, built on my pain. That journal was the first piece of evidence I kept, a seed for the revenge I didn't yet know I'd seek. A revenge not of hatred, but of truth that would expose him and set me free. After the locket, every family gathering became a reminder of my place, or lack of one. Rebecca wore it openly, its silver gleam a taunt at every Houston barbecue, every Christmas, every Easter brunch. My family didn't just ignore the theft. They embraced it, as if my pain was a minor inconvenience. I'd become an architect, the youngest senior architect at my Austin firm, designing sustainable buildings that earned a feature in Texas Architect magazine. It was a moment I thought would finally make them see me. But at Thanksgiving, as I set my magazine on the table, hoping for a flicker of pride, Nathan steered the conversation to his new vacation home in Hill Country. My parents leaned in, their eyes bright with admiration for him, while my magazine sat untouched like me. "Tell us more, Nathan," my mother urged, her voice warm in a way it never was for me. My father nodded, engrossed in Nathan's story of lake views and investment potential. My sister Hannah, newly engaged, got the same glow when she talked about her wedding plans. I tried to speak, to share my designs for a community center in East Austin, but Nathan cut me off with a laugh. "Abigail's still playing with her blueprints," he said, his smirk sharp. The table chuckled, and I felt myself shrink, the Texas humidity clinging to my skin like shame. At a family reunion in Fredericksburg, I brought my portfolio, sketches of buildings that could reshape Austin's skyline. Thought maybe this time they'd listen. But Nathan dominated again, boasting about his new condo in Dallas, a smart investment he claimed would outshine anything I'd ever do. My parents hung on his every word, while my portfolio gathered dust beside me. I caught Rebecca's eye, the locket gleaming at her throat, and she looked away, as if my presence was an accusation. The worst came at a San Antonio dinner, a celebration for Hannah's engagement. I'd just been promoted, a milestone that felt like proof I wasn't invisible. I stood to share, holding my glass of Texas red wine, my voice steady. "I've been named lead architect on a sustainable housing project," I said. Before I could finish, Nathan raised his glass. "To real success," he toasted, launching into a story about his latest real estate deal. My mother clapped, my father beamed, and my moment was gone. I sat down, the wine bitter on my tongue, realizing they'd never hear me. Nathan's lies had woven a narrative where I was the problem. Too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. But I was collecting evidence now. Screenshots of his texts to cousins, mocking my career as a hobby. Emails to my parents questioning my stability. Each piece was a brick in my plan, not to destroy him, but to expose the truth he'd buried. Every family gathering, every dismissal, fueled my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for a locket or a moment of recognition. I was fighting for my right to exist, to be seen, to take back the place Nathan had stolen. That Christmas, I'd bring more than gifts. I'd bring the truth, and it would change everything. Christmas 2024 was supposed to be different. I drove through Houston's suburbs, the streets glowing with twinkling lights and longhorn wreaths. My car filled with the scent of a homemade apple pie baked from my grandmother Margaret's recipe, rich with Texas pecans. In the back seat, carefully wrapped gifts. A handcrafted scarf for my mother Susan, a first edition mystery novel for my father Richard, a photo album for my sister Hannah's wedding, and for my brother Nathan, something special. Under elegant silver wrapping was a bound collection of evidence I'd gathered over years. Texts, emails, a recording. Proof of Nathan's lies that had kept me invisible in our family. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my stomach fluttering with butterflies. I'd spent weeks planning, rehearsing what I'd say if Nathan started his usual tactics. "Stay calm, Abigail," I told myself, glancing in the rearview mirror. "Show them who you are." I wore a forest green dress, chosen to complement my auburn hair, styled in loose waves. I wanted to look confident, professional, the architect who'd made a name in Austin, not the overlooked middle child. This was my chance to rewrite the story, to make my family see me, not Nathan's caricature of me. I'd been seeing Dr. Carter, my therapist, who warned that confronting family patterns rarely changed them. "Sometimes, Abigail," she'd said, her voice gentle, "the only way to win is to stop playing their game." But I wasn't ready to give up. They were still my family, and I clung to the hope that this Christmas, with its Texas warmth and holiday magic, might bridge the gap between us. I pulled into my parents' driveway, their colonial home a picture of holiday perfection, like something from a Texas monthly spread. 2 Christmas trees flanked the entrance, their lights dancing in the dusk. I took a deep breath, smoothing my dress, and checked my reflection one last time. I looked good, polished, ready. I carried my pie and gifts, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and hope. Maybe this year they'd see the woman I'd become, the one who'd designed sustainable buildings, who'd earned a feature in Texas Architect, who'd fought to hold on to herself despite years of being pushed aside. As I approached the door, I whispered a promise to myself. No matter what happens, I'll stand tall. I rang the bell, the sound echoing like a challenge. This wasn't just a holiday dinner. It was my last stand, a chance to reclaim my place before I considered walking away forever. The Texas air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and possibility, and for a moment I believed things could change. I didn't know then that I was walking into a moment that would break my heart and set me free. The door swung open, and my mother stood there, elegant in a red cashmere sweater, her pearl earrings catching the light. "Abigail," she said, her smile thin, not reaching her eyes. "You're right on time." Her words felt more like an accusation than a welcome. I stepped inside, arms full of gifts and my pecan pie, but she took the pie with a quick "thank you" and vanished into the kitchen, leaving me to juggle the presents alone. In the living room, the scene was warm but distant. My father was laughing with Hannah and her husband Patrick, clapping him on the back. "That's my son-in-law," he said, his voice booming with pride I'd never heard from me. Nathan held court with our aunts and uncles, his wife Rachel at his side, her diamond bracelet sparkling. Rebecca entered with her new boyfriend Justin, the locket, my locket, gleaming at her throat. "Abigail's here," my mother announced flatly, and a few heads turned, offering half-hearted smiles before returning to their conversations. Hannah gave me a quick hug, whispering, "Mom's stressed, so maybe don't talk about work. Last time you mentioned your promotion, she got a migraine." I nodded, swallowing the sting, and placed my gifts under the tree. I tried joining a conversation about Aunt Clara's hill country trip, but she nodded vaguely and turned away, as if I were an interruption. The pattern repeated. Every group I approached fell silent, eyes darting to drinks or phones. I was a ghost in my own family's home. During photos, my mother arranged everyone by the fireplace. Nathan and Rachel at the center, Hannah and Patrick to the left, Rebecca and Justin to the right. I waited, hoping for a place, but she handed me the camera. "Abigail, you're good at this," she said, as if it were a compliment. I took the photos, capturing their smiles while I stood behind the lens, unseen. Later, helping with appetizers, Nathan approached, his smirk sharp. "Green's a bold choice for you," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "Guess architects don't need fashion sense." I forced a smile. "How's real estate, Nathan?" "Tough market." His eyes narrowed. "Not for me," he said, leaning closer. "Mom mentioned your therapy. How's that going?" My face burned. My private sessions, shared in confidence, now his weapon. I kept arranging mushrooms, my hands shaking. Then I noticed the dining table, set with Margaret's Christmas china, napkins folded into swans. I counted, 10 settings, 10 chairs, 12 people. No place for me. I found my mother in the kitchen. "Mom, where's my place card?" She didn't look up from basting the turkey. "Don't worry about it, Abigail. Refill the ice bucket." I overheard her later, whispering to Clara, "She's always so difficult. It's better if she's not at the table." The words landed like a slap, the Texas heat outside no match for the cold inside me. I retreated to the bathroom, staring at my reflection, wondering how I'd been so naive to hope for a seat at their table. Dinner was announced at 5 sharp, and the family moved to the dining room, their laughter mingling with the clink of glasses. I stood at the threshold, watching them settle into their seats, the table a vision of Texas holiday perfection. Red candles, holly-bordered china, a centerpiece of roses and pine. My father took the head, my mother the foot, Nathan and Rachel at his right, Hannah and Patrick at hers. Rebecca and Justin sat across, with Clara and my uncle filling the rest. I was still standing, invisible. "Mom," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "Where should I sit?" The room went quiet. My mother paused, a practiced smile on her lips. "Oh, Abigail, the table's full. You can eat in the car just for today." The words hung like ice, sharp and cold. Before I could respond, Nathan looked at me, his smirk cutting deeper than ever. "Why would we waste a seat on you?" he said, his tone casual but his eyes gleaming with malice. The silence was deafening. My father stared at his plate, cutting turkey with precision. Hannah bit her lip, looking away. Rachel shifted uncomfortably but stayed silent. Rebecca touched the locket, then dropped her hand. No one spoke up. I gripped the doorframe, my face burning, tears threatening but held back. I wouldn't give Nathan the satisfaction. In that moment, something shifted, a clarity I'd never felt before. This wasn't a mistake. It was the truth of my place in this family laid bare. I'd spent years chasing their love, making excuses for their neglect, believing I could earn a seat. But there was no seat, not now, not ever. I thought of the gift under Nathan's plate, the evidence I'd slipped there earlier. Texts where he bragged about turning our parents against me, emails undermining my sanity, a recording of him laughing about my pain. I debated giving it, but now I knew. I walked to the Christmas tree, picked up Nathan's gift, and approached his chair. The room watched tense. "Nathan," I said, my voice steady, "this is for you." He looked up, annoyance flickering to wariness. "Can it wait?" my mother snapped. "No," I said. "It can't. Check under your plate." Nathan hesitated, then lifted it, revealing the envelope. His face paled as he opened it, scanning the pages, proof of his lies. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice tight. "The truth," I said. "Something this family doesn't know." Rachel reached for the papers, reading aloud a text where Nathan mocked my therapy. Rebecca's hand flew to the locket. "There's also Margaret's will," I said, looking at her. "It names me for the locket." "Nathan lied to you." She gasped, her face crumpling. Nathan stood, his chair scraping. "This is ridiculous," he spat, but his hand shook. I placed the gift beside his plate. "Open it or don't," I said. "But I'm done hiding your lies." I turned, my heart pounding but light, and walked out, leaving them with the truth that would unravel their perfect Christmas and Nathan's throne. As I walked away from that Christmas dinner table, my footsteps echoed in the quiet Houston night, each step a release from the weight I'd carried for years. I'd left Nathan's gift behind, a bound collection of his lies, a mirror to his deceit, and with it I left the hope that my family would ever see me. The Texas air was sharp, a rare snow dusting the ground, and as I climbed into my car, I felt something new, freedom. I'd spent decades chasing their love, molding myself to fit their expectations, believing if I was good enough, quiet enough, accomplished enough, they'd make room for me. But there was no room, not at their table, not in their hearts. Nathan's smirk, my mother's dismissal, the silence of my father and sister. They weren't accidents. They were choices. And for the first time I chose myself. I drove through Houston's glittering streets, the snowflakes catching the glow of holiday lights, and checked into a downtown hotel. The room was simple, but it felt like a sanctuary. I set my grandmother Margaret's locket, still in my heart if not on my neck, on the nightstand, a reminder of the strength she'd seen in me. I called Dr. Carter, my therapist, her voice a lifeline in the dark. "Abigail," she said, "you don't need their table to be whole. You've always been enough." Her words, laced with a Texas warmth, sank deep. I opened my journal, the Houston skyline twinkling outside, and wrote 3 words. "I am enough." That night, alone but not lonely, I felt the chains of my family's expectations fall away. I thought of the evidence I'd placed under Nathan's plate, texts where he mocked my pain, emails questioning my sanity, a recording of his laughter at my expense. I'd exposed him, not out of spite, but to reclaim my truth. The revenge wasn't in their reaction. It was in my release. I'd spent years believing their dismissal defined me, but in that hotel room, under the glow of a city that felt more like home than my family ever had, I saw clearly. I didn't need their validation. I'd built a life. Senior architect, creator of sustainable designs, a woman who'd survived their neglect, and it was mine to claim. The Texas snow outside was a rare gift, a clean slate, and as I fell asleep, I knew I'd never return to that table. I'd been fighting for a seat when I could build my own, one where I'd always belong. That night, I dreamed of Margaret, her locket shining, her voice whispering, "You're my dreamer, Abigail. Keep going." I woke with a resolve that felt like fire, ready to walk a path where my worth was no longer up for debate. The days after Christmas were a storm I'd unleashed but no longer needed to weather. Nathan's perfect world began to crack under the weight of the truth I'd left behind. Rachel, his wife, found more incriminating texts, not just about me but about her, his business partners, even our parents. She confronted him, and by New Year's she'd filed for divorce, taking their 2-year-old daughter with her. The news reached me through Hannah, who called, her voice trembling with a mix of shock and guilt. "Abigail," she said, "I didn't know how far he'd gone. I'm sorry I stayed quiet." I listened, my heart softening but guarded. Hannah wanted to rebuild, to be sisters again, but I wasn't ready. I needed time to heal, to trust her intentions. Rebecca, my cousin, reached out next. She sent the locket back, wrapped in a letter of apology. "Nathan told me you didn't want it," she wrote. "I should have questioned him. Margaret's will was clear. It was always yours." I held the locket, its silver cool against my palm, and felt Margaret's love flood back. It wasn't just an heirloom. It was proof that someone had seen me, even when my family hadn't. My father called a week later, his voice heavy. "I failed you, Abigail," he said. "I let Nathan's lies shape how I saw you. Can we talk?" We met at a Houston diner, the kind with sticky tables and strong coffee, and for the first time he listened. He shared his own regrets, how Nathan's charisma had blinded him, how he'd been too weak to challenge Susan's favoritism. It wasn't enough to erase the years, but it was a start. My mother, though, remained defiant. She left a voicemail, her tone sharp. "You've torn this family apart, Abigail. This is your fault." I didn't call back. Her words stung, but they no longer owned me. I'd spent my life carrying her guilt, but I was done. Aunt Clara sent a letter, a surprise that cut through the noise. "We let Nathan control the story too long," she wrote. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up." Her words, simple but sincere, were a reminder that some family might still find their way back to me. The fallout wasn't my revenge. It was the natural consequence of truth. Nathan's throne, built on lies, crumbled, and I didn't need to watch it fall to feel free. I stayed in Austin, focusing on my work, my therapy, my life. Dr. Carter helped me see that forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. It meant letting go of their power over me. I was rewriting my story, not as the invisible middle child, but as a woman who'd faced betrayal and chosen herself. The Texas winter, mild but clear, felt like a new chapter, one where I could breathe without the weight of their expectations. 6 months later, I stood in my Austin apartment, the walls painted in bold Texas colors, burnt orange, turquoise, a nod to the wide-open plains I loved. This was my sanctuary, a space that reflected the woman I'd become. I'd redecorated, shedding the beige of my old life, and every corner held a piece of me. Sketches of sustainable buildings, a shelf of architecture books, Margaret's locket on a velvet stand. I was thriving, not just surviving. At work, I led a sustainable housing project in East Austin, designing homes for families who'd never had a table of their own. My team respected me, my ideas shaped skylines, and I felt a purpose that no family dinner could dim. I started dating again, a kind engineer named Michael who laughed at my bad puns and saw my strength, not my scars. Our first date was at a food truck park under Austin stars, and for the first time I didn't brace for betrayal. I was learning to trust not just others but myself. I hosted dinners now, gathering friends who'd become my chosen family. We'd sit around my oak table, sharing stories over brisket and Shiner beer, the Texas sunset painting the sky. At my 4th of July barbecue, I stood in my backyard, Texas flags waving, and raised a glass. A friend toasted, "To Abigail, who built her own table." The words landed deep, a truth I'd earned. I wore Margaret's locket, its weight a reminder of my resilience, my roots. Hannah came, a tentative step toward rebuilding. We talked, not about the past, but about her dreams, my projects, a future we might share. My father visited too, bringing a quiet pride I'd never seen. "I'm proud of you, Abigail," he said, and I believed him. My mother stayed distant, but I was at peace with it. I didn't need her approval anymore. I thought of Nathan, now living alone in Dallas, his empire of lies reduced to rubble. I didn't gloat, I didn't need to. My revenge was living well, building a life where I was seen, valued, loved. Dr. Carter's words echoed. You can't change the wind, but you can adjust your sails. I'd adjusted mine, steering toward a horizon of my own making. Austin's Zilker Park became my refuge, where I'd walk, journal, dream. I was no longer the girl told to eat in the car. I was Abigail, architect, dreamer, survivor. My table was open, but only to those who honored my worth. This wasn't just healing. It was rebirth, a Texas-sized declaration that I was enough and always had been. Standing on my balcony overlooking Austin's Zilker Park, I feel the Texas breeze, warm even in spring, carrying a peace I never knew growing up. That Christmas, when my brother Nathan smirked and my family told me to eat in the car, was the breaking point, but it was also my beginning. I'd spent years chasing a seat at their table, believing their love would validate me. But walking away, leaving Nathan's lies exposed under his plate, texts, emails, a recording of his cruelty, wasn't just revenge. It was reclaiming my truth. I learned family isn't blood. It's respect, love, the people who see you when you're at your lowest. My grandmother Margaret saw me. Her locket a symbol of the strength she passed down. Now I wear it daily, a reminder that I'm enough. I think of Nathan, alone in Dallas. His empire of lies crumbled, but I don't gloat. My victory isn't his downfall. It's this life I've built in Austin. My vibrant apartment, my sustainable housing projects, my chosen family who gather around my table, laughing over Shiner beer. Dr. Carter, my therapist, once shared a Texas saying, "You can't change the wind, but you can adjust your sails." I've adjusted mine, steering toward a horizon where my worth isn't questioned. I'm Abigail, architect, dreamer, survivor, and I've built a table where there's always a seat for me. You can build yours too, no matter who's tried to make you feel small. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, like your voice was drowned out or your place was taken, this story is for you. Maybe you've faced a moment like mine, where you had to walk away to find yourself. I want to hear it. Drop your story in the comments. What boundaries have you set? How did you reclaim your worth? Your words could inspire someone watching, someone who feels stuck at a table that doesn't want them. Hit that like button if this story moved you. It tells YouTube to share it with others who need it. Subscribe to join our community, here in Texas and beyond, where we're healing from betrayal and building new tables. Share this video with a friend who's felt excluded, someone who needs to know they're enough. I read every comment, and together we can create a space where no one feels invisible. Let's keep this conversation going. Your story matters. Thank you for walking this journey with me, from a Houston Christmas that broke my heart to an Austin life that healed it. That night, when I left my family's table, I didn't just expose Nathan's lies. I found my own strength. I think of my grandmother Margaret, her locket now a beacon of my resilience, and I know she'd be proud. My revenge wasn't tearing Nathan down. It was building myself up, designing homes for others, hosting barbecues under Texas stars, walking Zilker Park with a heart full of peace. My father's starting to listen, my sister Hannah's trying to rebuild, and I'm open to what comes, but I no longer need their approval. My mother's distance stings, but it doesn't define me. I've learned to choose who sits at my table. Friends who celebrate me, a partner who sees me, a community that lifts me up. To anyone watching, feeling like you don't belong, hear this. You are enough. You don't need a seat at a toxic table. You can build your own, one where your voice is heard, your dreams are valued. Keep going, keep dreaming, keep building. I'll be here, sharing more stories of healing and strength, so stick around. Let's make space for everyone who's ever felt pushed out, right here together. See you in the next video.